Well, hi everyone. I am Palakh. As you heard, I'm a 21-year-old youth changemaker. What I don't tell often is that I'm an introvert turned speaker. So when I stand on the stage, I'm nervous. And yes, I'm also a content creator. Do we recognize what this is? Do we recognize this? Everyone in the room? From the nods and the smiles, yes, this is an hourglass. And I know we've been talking about the hourglass through different experiences and conversations and examples throughout the day. But we will continue to do so. Because we are talking about inverting the hourglass. Inverting the hourglass of time and flow and perceptions and perspectives and boundaries and beginnings and endings and of priorities and of life. Because an hourglass represents so much more. But before I dive into that section of my conversation, I want all of you to imagine a scenario. It's a very simple scenario. Just imagine you're watching a movie with your family. When you look at the next scene in the movie, you see the actors now shooting a film within the film. Sounds familiar, right? You're having a deja vu moment, a film in a film structure. That's exactly what's going to happen in our conversation today. Why? Because I'll be sharing some of my learnings and lessons from a conversation I had with a mentor, a 1-hour conversation that truly inverted the hourglass for me. The hourglass of perception and perspective and of mindset. And while I continue to implement those learnings in my own journey, I wanted to share it with all of you so that you join me in it. So let's dive right into it. The first lesson that I learned from that conversation is that there are two things that most of us don't associate with each other. And that's growth and unlearning. All of us focus so much on the learning bit that we often forget about the unlearning part. Unlearning negative habits, unlearning negative thoughts, unlearning unwanted conversations and comments and opinions and relations that no longer support us in our vision towards growth. Unlearning also helps us in our growth journey. And like the title of my talk says, that was lesson number 1 on how to flip the narrative and perspective and how that helped me as well. The second lesson was something simpler. From that conversation on that one random Tuesday evening that ended up not being random at all, was that a lot of us often dwell on the ending so much that we fail to realize that most endings are actually the beginning of newer things in life. They're actually the beginning of newer chapters. I still remember the last week of school, for me that was in the online mode. I was petrified. I was thinking, how will I actually step out of this place because it's given me so much? How will I actually step out from not seeing those 3 faces that I call my friends because I was a big introvert? How will I not see those 5 smiling faces of the teachers every single day? Is this the end to school or is this the end to something bigger? And that conversation made me realize that most endings actually are beginnings to newer chapters. They are either simply a move on to the next chapter or a restart right where you are. Even when we look at the hourglass, imagine the last bit of sand has just touched the bottom of the surface. Okay, this part is empty. Are we nervous? Is there a sense of uncertainty? Not really, right? Why? Because we know that that's not the end. We can simply flip over and it starts the process right again. That was lesson number 2 on flipping the narrative. Well, the third lesson was something much deeper. And I know each and every one of us relate to it. Because we're so consumed in the way that the time and the sand is flowing through our hourglass of life, we completely forget about the smallest of the sand particles. And I know it sounds deep and it sounds cliche, but in reality, these are the smallest moments that actually matter. The smallest of the moments, the smallest of the compliments that made your day, the smallest of the conversations with your loved ones that told you to keep going, the smallest of moments with yourself that told you to show up for yourself, and the smallest of achievements that are actually pushing you to achieve something bigger. And to be honest, it took me a long time to appreciate my smaller wins as well. So hey, I'm right there with you. Because I used to think, I'll appreciate and celebrate my bigger milestones. I'll celebrate the moments which matter too much to me. Forgetting that it's actually the smaller moments that matter more, the smaller wins that are actually motivating me to keep going for those bigger milestones. So the smallest of the sand particles matter. Lesson number 3. And that takes me to the fourth and the final lesson that I got from that conversation, from that one mentor. And that was, again, like I mentioned, because we simply forget and we are so overwhelmed by the fact that time is running out and I need to achieve this, how do I do this, what are other people doing, how do I get started, where am I on this milestone, that we completely forget how we are making the most of that time. So pause and introspect. Am I prioritizing my mental health? Am I prioritizing myself? Am I taking the breaks I deserve? Am I spending time with my family? Am I spending time on my passions? Am I doing what I actually love to do? Pause and introspect. Because like I mentioned, the smallest of the sand particles matter, the smallest of the gaps between them matter, and a flipped perspective, that changes everything. Thank you so much.